or I'm going to share it on Facebook, then I will do the intro. There we go. All right. Howdy and welcome back to the Ineligibles podcast. I'm Will Stone.
I'm not Chase Caldwell.
He is not Chase Caldwell.
I've been planning that.
So who are you if you're not Chase Caldwell?
I am Hayden Garland.
Hayden Garland. Welcome to the show, Hayden.
Good to be here.
So Hayden is a longtime friend of Chase and I's. The three of us were all in the same fraternity at A&M. We're all in AGR. So Hayden has been a big supporter of our podcast since we launched. We like to think of him as our target audience. So any ideas we have, we always test them on him first. And if he thinks it sounds good, then we usually go with it. So. But we're definitely glad to have you on today. With Chase being in Costa Rica, he should be landing any moment now. But we're turning over a new leaf. We're trying to really stick to 7 o'clock every Monday, every Wednesday, and get an episode off. So we definitely appreciate you stepping in.
Yeah, like I said, it's a pleasure to be here. I happy to help. I've been listening to every episode since y'all started last year, and I always said it was a little funny not being able to make fun of y'all whenever y'all were making jokes and y'all say something. I'm like, what? And now here's my shot, so I get to rib you while we're doing it.
Yeah, and even before, in the past few weeks, you've been in the comment section of the live videos. So.
Well, that's been awesome because I've been able to actually share some jokes and just throw some comments at you just to see if I could get y'all to react or not. And some of them y'all ran with, and some y'all just whatever, ignore me.
Well, and you know us, it's hard for us to stay on task as it is. So if we can get through an episode in an hour, we call that a success. So
yeah, as much as Chase talks for sure.
I'm expecting him to hop on here at some point during this broadcast and just to hop in the comments on his drive home from the airport, but. We'll definitely keep an eye out for that.
Yeah.
I should probably pull up comments while I'm saying that. All right. Well, before we get going today, we're going to talk offensive line. If you are joining us, we appreciate you. We hope you will subscribe, go like all of our pages, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, all those good things. And so far, we've done quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end. Yeah, we did running backs and tight ends together, and receivers was its own episode. But we're doing O-line today to wrap up offense. And before we get to it, I wanted to give Hayden a topic he was more familiar with, just to kind of get his podcast legs under him. So, Hayden, you're a big fantasy football player.
Yeah.
You're in how many leagues?
Home league, work league, dynasty, college dynasty, friends.
It's about
5-ish, yeah. If we
toss
another one in there this year, that'll be 6.
Yeah. Well, we plan on doing that. So
yeah,
just add to it. But
6 it is.
Yeah. So who's one player that is kind of on your radar this year is someone you might draft him ahead of their ADP, like someone that you don't want to leave your draft without?
I mean, for me, it's going to be Cortland Sutton, and I'm really glad that I don't think any of my friends listen to this. That way, they can't snipe him from me. But pretty much every mock draft that I've done so far, it's Cortland Sutton.
Yeah,
I had him. I thought he was. I have him in my dynasty, so I've been following him closer than others. And he's been doing, okay so far in the league. Admittedly, I picked him in Dynasty, hoping that he would actually go somewhere else. Well, the Broncos decided to re-sign him, and Jerry Jeudy, and Tim Patrick. I mean, they just re-signed everybody, and that got me a little discouraged. But then they brought Russ in this year, and so I think with Russell Wilson in Denver, I think that Cortland Sutton's one of those guys that I'm just going to reach for a little bit. Almost every single time.
Yeah, I've been torn on that because like they do have those 3 guys that are probably all, I think they're all draftable in fantasy, especially if they let Russ cook, which I bet they do. So I could see them all 3 putting up yards, but if Cortland ends up being his go-to target, his favorite target, then that's definitely going to be a good pick. So you sent me one of your mock drafts a while back, and it was pretty much all the players I liked. So I hope I don't draft next to you in our league, or you're going to be taking all my players. So last thing before we get into offensive line talk, we typically don't do a lot of recruiting updates, like when it's not signing day. But this was big enough, and it was impactful enough for us to touch on today. But over the weekend, A&M had its big pool party. This is the last kind of event on the recruiting calendar until the season starts. Like you can't really host officials or unofficials throughout the next few weeks until games start. So this, like everyone around the country, Bama, Texas, A&M, Oklahoma, they all had their big weekends this weekend. And if you go back to last season or last summer, the pool party that year really set the tone for that number 1 class. So it came in with a lot of hype this year. It's going to be a smaller class for A&M, so you probably won't see them repeat as number 1 overall, but it still should be a pretty highly rated class, especially after this weekend they got a verbal commitment from 5-star linebacker Anthony Hill from Denton Ryan. And when we talked about the class that signed, back in February, the number 1 class in the country, best class of all time via the composite ranking, it was pretty loaded at every spot, and they took some good linebackers, but they didn't have like the best in the country type at that position, and that's what they're getting in Anthony Hill. He was probably on their overall big board. He was probably number 1, at the very, very top, their highest priority. So for them to lock him down this early before the season starts and not have to, get into a war late in the year, which, I mean, I doubt Texas is going to quit calling him and stuff like that. So, but still, if you get a guy like him on board, he can kind of be your Pied Piper almost, and he will, if other kids are like, hey, if Anthony's going there, that's going to draw in some other kids that were maybe on the fence. But I know you were looking at the commitment list before we got on here, Hayden, but there's a kid from your neck of the woods that's committed to A&M right now.
Yeah, I saw a kid from LaGrange on there.
LaGrange. Oh, so I don't know their mascot.
The Leopards.
The Leopards. Okay, I should have known that. I like that. It's like Lorena, the Lorena Leopards.
Oh, that's a throwback to the last episode. I wasn't paying attention there. You got me.
Yeah. And I definitely didn't know the high school you went to. It's not. I always want to call it Fayetteville. It's not Fayetteville, is it?
No, Fayetteville. Do you know their mascot though?
No.
That's the Lions.
Okay, and you went to Round Top Carmine.
I sure did.
And
Fayetteville was our rival. We were the Cubs.
Okay. I'm sorry to offend you.
That's all right. We didn't have a football team, so right. It's hard to know the mascot of a football team when there is no football team.
That's true.
I think after a couple years after I left, there was the Fayette County Panthers. I think us and Fayetteville actually combined to form a 6-man team.
Oh, nice.
I was not lucky enough to be a part of that, and I don't think we were any good, but they tried.
They tried. That's probably why they stopped playing.
It's a pretty good guess.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good guess.
So you went back before we sat down to record this to kind of prepare, and you listened to our show last year about the offensive line.
Yep.
Any takeaways from that listen? I haven't listened to it since we recorded it, but I do remember a few things that we touched on. But is there anything that you took away from that?
The biggest thing I can remember is that the offensive line is your baby, and I don't have to really say too much here. I'm going to just shut up and let you run with it. But no, I mean, the big talking point was Kenyon Green. I know that he was drafted. He was one of our better players last year, and I don't remember exactly where he was drafted, but he did leave the team for the league, and we've got to find somebody to replace him.
Yeah, no, and that was expected. You know, like Kenyon was a 5-star coming out of Atascocita, like a top 10, 15 player in the country. Started day one, and you know, after his, you know, definitely after his sophomore year, you're like, okay, this guy's here for one more year, and he's going to be gone. But I believe he went in the top 15 to the Texans. I know the Texans took him, but I'm trying to think of what spot it was. It was like 13 or 15. I do know I was pissed off about it because I had him penciled into the Cowboys for, you know, weeks, you know, and all the mock drafts I looked at, I'm like, hey, like Kenyon falls to us and we can take him and solidify our O-line. But that did not happen, sadly. But he is gone. I am glad. I'm happy for him that, you know, he gets to go back to his hometown and play for the Texans. That's a pretty cool experience for him. And you know, he's going to make a lot of money, so that's always great. But we do have an opening at left guard now, and honestly, when you look at the whole team, left guard is one of a very few spots going into fall camp that is really it's going to be a heated battle. Like 4 of the 5 spots are pretty much locked up on the O-line, but left guard, you know, there's 4 guys you can that have a case to make to start there. So I think the betting favorite, you know, if I were to guess today, is probably Jordan Moko. He's a second-year guy from Australia. His mascot was the Rhinos. That's the only Australian team that I know. But you know, he redshirted last year. He got in, you know, action in a couple of games, but I believe it was less than 4, so he was able to keep his red shirt. But dealt with some injury stuff, and now he's fully healthy. Just in terms of his raw gifts and abilities, you know, he's 6'5", 330 pounds, but just super athletic. Moves extremely well. Is very light on his feet for a guy that big, and freakishly strong and aggressive as well. So I was bummed because, you know, he like there were some guys banged up in the spring in spring practice, and he took pretty much all the reps at left guard with the ones, and started out the spring game there. And on the first drive, he, you know, his ankle gets rolled up on, and he still played, but you know, he was like he was not 100% whatsoever. So you really just got to see one drive of him, but he's a guy that, you know, he's going to have, you know, a say so in that left guard spot. The other guy is the guy that started last year in Akinola Ogumbi, or Aki as we call him. He's what is he now? He's a 3rd-year guy from Fort Bend Kempner. He's kind of an interesting story. You know, he came from like a run first offense, and he was like, you know, he was probably 330 pounds in high school, just kind of a road grading dude. And then he got to A&M and dropped a lot of weight, you know, like, you know, cut some bad weight, but had struggled a bit to, you know, gain the good weight back and really bulk back up. So he started out at left guard last year. He played all right. He didn't play bad at all. Didn't play at an all conference level or anything, but I believe he got hurt like 4 games in, and that's when the shuffling took place on the O-line. You know, had to move Kenyon back. I think Laden missed a couple of games, and you know, like the O-line was just kind of a mess at the start of last year. So he's definitely a guy that can compete. And then you have a guy like Blake Traynor. I feel like some people forget, but Blake Traynor started at left guard in the win over Alabama. You know, like the coaches woke up that day, and I think Jameer Johnson, who was the starting left tackle, got suspended or something. So they had to, you know, like he couldn't play in the game. They had to move Kenyon from left guard to left tackle, put in Traynor at left guard, and play one of the best defensive lines in the country. and they did pretty well. So
I heard they won that game.
They did win that game. It was kind of a big deal. But he brings a little bit different skill set for a guard. He's 6'7", but he's but he's pretty heavy. Like he's like 330, 340 pounds. So he's got the weight to hold up inside, but with him being so tall, he's got those long arms that can really, help him engage defensive linemen earlier than maybe a 6'5" player can. So like, between those three guys and even some of the freshmen like Cam Dewberry, he's a guard from the same, or he's an offensive lineman from the same high school as Kenyon. He actually played right tackle Kenyon's senior year as a true freshman. And he's got the requisite size and strength and, and know-how to be able to play at guard. And there's also Mark Naboo. He was a 3-star player, but apparently the coaches love him. He's another big body, 6'5", 340. There's a lot of options. So I'll get to the rest of the spots, here shortly. But of all the battles in camp, it's quarterback, it's that third receiver. I would say probably, a spot in the defensive backfield, and then left guard is going to be as highly contested as there is on the team. But looking back at last year, I know I was pretty high going in. That's probably a theme from that episode last year. I was, we lost 4 guys, right? But we still got Kenyon. We got some young talent.
Yeah.
And we brought in Jameer Johnson. And, I thought the O-line last year could have been, a pretty good unit, at least servable in most games. But from what I know about Jameer, he transferred in from Tennessee, but, I don't think he was ever healthy. And I say that because, he got picked up by the Packers, I think, as an undrafted free agent, and he was cut like a week later due to medicals. So it's stuff you don't know about. Like you see a guy out there, you think like, well, he's not hurt, he's playing, but you never really know like what they're going through.
Well, it's a bunch of off-the-field stuff that really influences players that you never see that. It's you see them play on the field, but if they're not, they've got stuff going on at home or, not non-football injuries, that stuff that does take a toll on players. So, yeah.
Yeah. When like a defensive tackle for A&M, McKinley Jackson, he played the whole season with a torn labrum. And I've torn my labrum, and I could not have played football with it. So, like, that's some toughness that these kids are showing. They can get, like their scholarship is paid for, and they can make some NIL money, but it's still not, it's still not what the pros make. It's not millions of dollars, and it's still, it's a gladiator sport. There's a lot of pain involved and a lot of injury. So, it sucks that that injuries happen, but it does make me proud to see the players who are tough enough, or that are tough and want to go out and compete anyway, even if they are hurt, if they can play through it. But moving right along, so left guard, it's not locked down. It's going to be a battle. The other 4 spots, I love them. At this time a year ago, I knew that I think 4 of the 5 guys are going to be from the class that we signed in 21, like the previous signing class.
Mm-hmm.
They took 6 guys, and some 4 stars, some 3 stars, a mix of both. But 4 of the 5 stars are going to come from that group, most likely. And at this point a year ago, we knew they'd be good eventually. We didn't know how soon, but turns out Reuben Fothery and Bryce Foster were pretty good right away. Bryce played guard all through high school, and then was not at A&M in the spring, was banged up in fall camp and practiced for like a week and a half at center, and has to go out and start, against Kent State and then Colorado and then, or eventually Arkansas, within the first month of really taking over center, and it's a complicated offense, and the center kind of, helps the quarterback set the formations and things like that and set the calls. So I thought, he had ups and downs early on, but he settled in and he played pretty well. So I think Foster at center, I think he will, improve this year and challenge for all conference. I think Ruben Father is probably a top 5 player on the team for me. 6'8", 330 pounds. If you watched Alabama, you know who you didn't see was Will Anderson, because the best defensive player in the country was stonewalled by our true freshman right tackle all game in Fathery. It was impressive. And they don't just have Anderson; they've got other guys, and Ruben did fine against them too. And he was a true freshman. He's been in the program for a year now. Was a basketball player in high school and never really got to dedicate himself to a weightlifting program. And now he has. Now he's filled out that frame, and I think he didn't make any preseason teams, but he's a guy you could look up, in 4 or 5 months from now, and he's an All-American. I was going to make that point about Kenyon too. As good as Kenyon was as a junior and sophomore, he had a good freshman year, but even as good as he was, he would still struggle in games as a freshman, and that's just to be expected. Even it doesn't matter how talented you are, but he still had a few plays a game where he would get beat because he was 18 years old and he's playing against 22-year-olds. So that's just part of it. So having those two guys, year older, year wiser, that's going to be a big improvement.
Yeah, as a freshman, I mean, going up against those guys 1 or 2 or even 3 years older than you, you just went from playing these guys that were all smaller than you because you were the dude, and now all of a sudden everybody that you're going up against, they were the dude wherever they came from. But again, they might have been the dude. They might even be the dude on their team. I mean, they have to be because they're the ones that are on the field that you're playing against. So yeah, I mean, it's got to be a tough role for a freshman. But if he stepped up, and he's hopefully only going to improve from there.
Yeah, and both those guys, I don't think either one was here in the spring of the freshman year. So that's even less time they had in the weight room. Like, it was really just, hey, get here in June. You live for a couple of months, you go through practice, and then, hey guys, we need y'all to play right now. Surprise. But that's another thing I didn't mention with Bryce. In that episode we did last summer, like, we were still under the impression that Luke Matthews was going to start at center.
What happened there?
Yeah. So he had to medically retire. I don't know what, I think it was, I'm not sure if it was a knee or what it was, but actually it was a shoulder is what it was. He'd really been hurt for a couple years in a row. So like going into last season, we're like, hey, he's missed the last 2 with surgery. Maybe now he's fully healthy. I think he tried to give it a go, but just he couldn't manage it and had to ultimately hang him up, which is it's sad to see. He's the third Matthew brother after Jake and Luke, after Jake and Mike, who've already played at A&M. So you hate to see that, but that's actually a point I'd like to make on. I think because people see that A&M recruits at a high level. Why was the O-line poor at times last year? And when you look back at Jimbo's like transition class, so he gets hired, and then signing day was in 2 weeks, like that class. They signed 4 guys on the O-line, 1 transferred, 3 medically retired. Like there's none of them that actually were able to play meaningful downs at A&M for one reason or another. So that's a huge issue, and like they had to go out and take a transfer to even even field a lineup that they even felt good about. So sometimes it's just bad luck, but I feel like it's in a spot now to where there's enough guys, enough young guys and older guys in the pipeline now to where that shouldn't be an issue going forward. I don't think.
I mean, we've got nothing but 3, 4, 5 stars listed here. I mean, seems like we've got a lot of talent there at the positions to be able to fill any holes that anybody's left behind.
Yeah, and like I was saying earlier, there's 4 guys at left guard. That's a depth. Like if one of those guys, if he gets nicked or something, or or maybe he starts off the season well and starts to struggle. There's other guys that are going to be working their tails off to take a spot. I think that the one thing I do kind of worry about is depth at tackle. I like Ruben. I mean, I love Ruben. I think he's going to be a tremendous player. The other tackle spot is likely to be manned by Trey Zune, who's another, he's another second-year player. When you hear Jimbo talk about him, Jimbo says that he would have been able to play more last year and maybe even start at left tackle last year. But I think he had torn his ACL in his senior season of high school, so he was still trying to get back from that and wasn't able to go. But he's a guy the coaches love. So with Jameer having to play last year, being injured, I think left tackle is a spot that could be an upgrade this year with Trey Zune stepping in, and we need that. We're going to have a young quarterback or an inexperienced quarterback taking over. You need to have your two tackle spots, locked down and be able to protect. But what starts to worry me is the depth. If one of those guys goes down, I don't really know what the plan of action would be. I think they might trot Aggie at one of those spots because he is built more like a guard, but he's got the feet to play tackle in a pinch kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. So you hope it wouldn't be for too long, but if you absolutely had to, there may not be too much of a drop off if you had to put him in there for a couple of games. You just hope it's not Bama because they got some pass rushers.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, like we talked about Will Anderson earlier. He's a projected top 3 pick in the draft. I guess depends on who needs a quarterback, but this is a good top here. But like who is favored to have the number 1 next year? Is it Houston or is it Jacksonville?
I think it's Houston. I think their win line is like 4.5 games right now.
That's pretty rough.
It's not good.
Yeah.
That I'm trying to think. And I mean, Houston needs a quarterback.
Right.
They just took Kenyon. If they want to beef up the O-line a little bit more, they sure can. But I don't think that they'd go that route. Jacksonville could use some offensive linemen. Who else is out there?
Detroit? They probably go quarterback. Actually, yeah, they might be okay this year.
Well, Goff they're saying Goff is in a quarterback battle with somebody, which I looked at their roster whenever I heard that, and I don't know any of the other names. So, yeah, they're going to need a quarterback if that's the case. But I think people are a little bit higher on the Lions than what their win total opened at.
Yeah.
I know that that line was betted up just a little bit. So,
yeah, the Jags got Trevor, obviously. I think the Texans like Davis Mills, but I don't know if they want to. Obviously, if he struggles this year, they're probably in the market for either a Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud.
Well, they have so little invested in him. He was a late round pick. They really don't have any money committed to him. So yeah, they can, if they see somebody else, they can draft somebody or even trade for somebody with little to no impact on their salary.
Yeah.
What about the Seahawks?
Yeah, that's a good bet to be up there.
I mean, they've got Geno, but I don't know if that's going to do anything for them.
I'm trying to think of who who out of these teams is going to take Will Anderson. And I bet it's the Jags. If they're, well, I don't know. They might take old boy from Ohio State, the receiver, Jackson Smith and Jigba.
I don't know. Lawrence, he struggled a little bit last year. That's why I think that they may need some more guys. I mean, Lawrence in college, lit everybody up. And then he goes to Jacksonville and he's running around. He doesn't have any accuracy. He seems always rushed. I mean, it seems like an offensive lineman is something that they need.
Yeah. Yeah. So, there's a lot of commentators out there and college football analysts, and I would include myself in this line of thinking that A&M is really primed to they'll be good this year, but they're really going to break out and hit their stride in 2023 and next season. And it's for a lot of different reasons, but one big reason is, the entire offensive line should return the following season, with the exception of maybe one guy. We haven't talked about him yet, but that guy's Laden Robinson, and Laden Robinson is one of my favorite players on the team. Just like last year when everyone's talking about, like, obviously Kenyon had a great year, and Bryce and Ruben, were both very highly rated, doing good things as true freshmen. I think maybe the best guy was Laden. He when you go back and watch the games, like, he's not giving up pressures. He's playing against Alabama and locking up their interior guys. He's playing against Colorado with a sprained ankle. He can barely move around, but he's still so damn strong. He can hold his own. So he was. I saw him mock draft. I think it was Mel Kiper had him going at like 32. To, I guess, whoever he picked to win the Super Bowl. I forgot what team it was, but it made me happy to see Laden actually get some recognition, and I think he was either first or second team preseason All SEC, but it's deserved. Like, he's that caliber of player, and he's the same age as Kenyon, but like, he redshirted, and last year was his first year starting. Returning starter this year, and you could see him leave. What I found with guys and who declares and who comes back for another year, it's really tough to get someone to come back for that fifth year. With the three and done guys, you typically know who they are. It's going to be your Kenyon Greens, your DeMar Leals, your Devon Achanes, most likely. Those premier players. With your 4-year guys, I think like a Justin Matabike. He started for 2 seasons after redshirting. Had a great, had 2 pretty productive seasons for A&M. And then, it was tough to get him to come back for that 5th season, and because at that point the guys have their degrees, they're like, do I really want to do a grad program? Not really. I'm kind of done with school. I'd rather go make money. It's hard to fault them for that,
I don't know, man. I would have gone back for a 5th year if I could have swung it.
Yeah, that's true. But
I mean, people take their super senior year just for another football season, and we're just watching. I mean, heck, I'd love to go play for an extra year, but
Well, it's either 5th year with not much money, or you go to the NFL for a few $1 million.
Well, sure. I guess
it's all about the money.
Things.
That's actually a good point from Pierce here in the comments. Do you think NIL will be a bit easier, or do you think it will be a bit easier to hang on to guys for another year or so? I think with some, it'll definitely play a part. I think of a guy like Devon Achane. He said in an interview the other day with Texags that he's like, yeah, I know I'm getting projected to go, in the draft or whatever, but my mom really wants me to get my degree, and I don't want to upset her.
Yeah.
So, but like the good part of that is, if he does come back, he does have NIL opportunities. It's not just take out an insurance policy, hope you don't get hurt kind of thing. You could actually make some cash, and if you do get hurt, that would suck, but you probably still end up getting drafted the following season or the following draft. But it does help. I think it's a lot better case to make. Like, hey, come back for another year, make a little bit of money, play for a championship, or go to the draft and make I think quite a bit more money than you probably would in NIL.
well, you got to take, bringing baseball into it. I know this is not a baseball podcast, but a lot of guys get drafted out of high school and say, okay, I got drafted in the fourth round by, whatever team. Do I want to go play rookie ball and like work my way up, and in maybe 5 years I get there, or do I want to go play college and maybe increase my draft stock a little bit and go get drafted in the first, second, third round? That signing bonus just increases a little bit. So if you stay that fifth year, you stay healthy, you show all the NFL scouts, what you're made of. You can make a little bit more money.
Yeah,
have a better payday come April.
Well, and what I've noticed is on the in the past 4 or 5 years, the guys that come back on the really, really good teams, they come back if they don't win a championship. I think of that of the Clemson team in 2018. In 2017, it was before Trevor got there. They made the playoff. They got smoked by Bama. They got shut out. They didn't score any points. And they had 3 defensive linemen who could have gone to the draft. 2 were definite first rounders, Christian Wilkins and Cleveland Farrell. But the 2 of them and the third guy, Austin Bryant, all came back for their senior years. That was before NIL was legal. I'm not going to, point any fingers, but I don't think they came back for free just to win a title. But that probably played a part, and the same thing happened with, like Travis Etienne went back. I think they lost to LSU, and he could have gone pro and probably been a first rounder, late or early second round pick. But he came back, because he wanted to win a championship, or for him it would have been a second championship. But and then all the guys at Bama, like Najee Harris, definitely should have gone. And I think of Alex Leatherwood, Devontae Smith,
Yeah.
Judy and Ruggs went, and then Smith came back, and he won a Heisman. It worked out for him, but but if he had gone, he's still getting drafted in the first round. So I don't know. It's different for different people, but I think if this is a prediction, if A&M has a really, really good year and maybe makes the playoff and loses, or maybe just misses the playoff, you could see some guys come back. Like a guy like Laden Robinson, I could see a guy like him. He's like, man, I worked so hard. We came so close. I really want a championship, and we're primed to do it next year. I'm just going to come back. I've got NIL. I can make a little bit of money, and then go pro the following year, and get a ring. So, I think it benefits the contenders. If for those coaches to be like, hey, we didn't win it this year, but if you come back next year, that's going to be our year, and you can have a ring, and then you can go make your millions.
You know how else you can make millions?
Was that setting up for DraftKings?
Yes, it was.
Nice.
Pretty good.
Nice.
Pretty good.
That was good. Hey, first time podcast host Hayden Garland just throwing up alley oops on the DraftKings read. Yeah, so I'm not gonna read it off live, but I'm definitely gonna plug it in right after you said that. So that's gonna be good. Flawless. Hey, there's Chase. Just touched down from Costa Rica.
Good to see. He's going to take over now, right?
Great transition, Hayden. I'm glad he saw it. I was about to say, if you didn't catch that, I was going to bring it back up. But so yeah, DraftKings. If you're in a legal state, you should definitely go check them out. I forgot what we were talking about now. Okay, yeah, about coming back.
Returning.
About coming back.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you could see a really, really good offensive line this season, and have everybody return the following year. And I try to focus on this year because I'm an eternal optimist. I think every year, anything's possible.
This is our year.
When you have this kind of talent, especially now, like this is a talented team, super talented. if a few things break the right way, this team can win a championship. But I understand the reasoning. Like, hey, like next year we're loaded. Like we're packed to the gills with talent, with experienced talent, probably a returning quarterback, and no Bryce Young or Will Anderson at Alabama. I think one of the final points I'll make, and this is our show, so we can just goof off for a bit. But the last point I'll make is, I'm trying to think of the word, gun shy. Don't get gun shy. I mean, hyping up the O line, because I hyped it up last year and things didn't work out at the beginning. There were some extenuating circumstances, and like two of the guys that we projected into the starting five had big time medical issues that we didn't really know about. You had to start two true freshmen who weren't here in the spring. You had to move Kenyon around all over the place, and then that's not good for him. He needs to, he needed to settle into a spot, and once he did, he played really well. And then Laden got hurt and missed a few games, and then Aggie got hurt and missed 8 games of the season. So I think I try to not blame things on injury, but I think the injury bug bit us last year a lot more than normal. Like I think it regresses back to the mean this year with an average number of injuries, not as bad as it was last year. But I say all that to say, when I look around at the other offensive lines in the country, this is kind of my shtick. Like, I love O-line play, and whenever I watch a team, I'm watching their O-line. There's maybe one or two O-lines I would take over ours. I think Ohio State is loaded. Like they're, if you watch Ohio State play, their offensive line is huge. Like, they're all like 6'6", 6'7", like 340 pounds. Like they're big dudes. And some of those guys are big time draft prospects. And the other one's Georgia, who lost, I think, a couple of guys, but they bring back some really good talent. I know Cedric Van Pran was a guy that A&M looked at. He's like an all SEC type. Broderick Jones is a projected first round pick for next year. But after that, like, I would take our line over Alabama's, to be quite honest. I think Bama's a little suspect at tackle, and like even Arkansas. Like, Arkansas has a really good O-line, but I think I think those guys are just really experienced, and like they know the system really well, and they do their jobs well, but they're not like physically overpowering. I think this line that A&M has this year can be physically overpowering. Like, you've got across the board, like your lightest guy is 320. I don't know about I should go look up what Ohio State's got and see what their average is, because they're probably pretty close. But like, this unit averages like 6'5", 330 plus pounds, and I brought it up before, but Steve Adazio, he's like, and no offense to Josh Henson, but like his philosophy is a lot more kind of like mauling, like road grading type run blocking, and that suits this group really, really well. And we know Jimbo wants to run the ball, and he's got the horses to do it, and he's got the backs to do it. On top of all that, I think if A&M is to beat Alabama this year, I know they've got 12 games and they're all important, and there's going to be other tough opponents, but I think if we are going to win that game, you've got to block their edge guys. We talked about Will Anderson. They've got a second-year guy named Dallas Turner who's really damn good. Like, you look at him and he looks skinny. I bet he only weighs 230, but dude is like 6'5", long-armed, and like deceptively strong for how big he looks. I think he had like 8 sacks last year, and he barely played. Like, he's getting in against Georgia and like LSU and just tearing people up. Like, it was a sight to see. But I think we have the horses to hang with those guys and to keep our quarterback clean. And if we can do that, I think we've seen what Jimbo did last year. With Calzada having time, Anais had a huge day. Jalen Weidemeyer had a huge day. A-Chain was getting open, like passing to the backs, is a big way they attacked Alabama last year. This unit can do it, and they've got 5 games to get ready. They've got 2 games to get ready for Miami. That's going to be a big test. I'm looking forward to that. But we have a question from Chase. Let me see if I can put that on the screen here. There we go. Do you expect us to see stylistic differences in our blocking scheme from years past? Yes, I do. I think with Henson, he's a lot more from the air raid tree, and it's not a bad philosophy at all. Like when this is a bad memory for Aggie fans, but when Henson was at Missouri, they played A&M at Kyle Field in 2014, and they ran for like 300 yards in one quarter. It was bad, and obviously that 2020 A&M O-line was spectacular. Like we've always ran the ball really well, but I think what you get from Adazio from a scheme standpoint is just a lot more aggression. It's a lot more, like downhill, like double teams. Like, hey, Ruben and Laden, you're going to double team this guy, and you're going to put him into the linebacker's lap, and take out those 2 guys, and then Moko or Aki, like you're going to pull around and crush this defensive end. With Henson, it was a lot more zone, like kind of not really moving guys off the ball. A lot more of, hey, like get on your guy and like take him where he wants to go, and then just make sure that your back is turned towards the gap we're running to. So I think you see a lot more physicality up front, and I'm pumped to see it. Like it's something that I love to watch is just a big physical offensive line, like setting the tone of the line of scrimmage and resetting the line of scrimmage. Whenever you watch the ball snap, you're watching the lines, and when you see our guys push the other team's guys back a couple yards, like that's how that the coaching is on point, and these guys are blocking their asses off. So yeah, I do think it's different, and I'm fired up to see it.
Where did he's Adazio's new this year? Where did tell me where he came from.
Guys being dudes. That's if anyone's unfamiliar, he's the source of that soundbite. So he that's a good question, Hayden. He had a really
to learn.
So Adazio was the O-line coach at Florida under Urban Meyer, and they had great O-lines, obviously, with Tim Tebow and those kind of teams. Also a really, really good recruiter, as an O-line coach. And he did something you don't really see. Like you saw Sam Pittman do it here recently, but Adazio went from being O-line coach at an SEC team, at a really good SEC team, straight to being a head coach, like without having to be a coordinator in between. So he went straight from O-line coach at Florida to head coach at Boston College. And I went back and actually watched a lot of the game from 2013 when Adazio was the head coach at Boston College, and Jimbo's at Florida State, obviously the year they won the title. And Adazio's line was giving them problems. like they were running the ball, and like a lot of those guys played in the NFL. Trying to think like Tim Jernigan, Eddie Goldman, Mario Williams, like big defensive linemen that were big time NFL players. And like Adazio's scheme, I think Jimbo said that they gave up more rushing yards to Boston College than anybody else that year. You might say like, well, if he's so great, then why did he get fired? Well, it is still Boston College, and it is tough to recruit, at a certain level. And I don't think he ever had like a really bad year. Like I think they were typically like 6-6, or maybe like I think that may have been their worst year was 6-6, which I don't know how how much you can ask for when you're at Boston College. But so he ended up getting let go there, I think, around I think in 2020 or maybe 19. I forget where he coached the COVID year, but last season he went from there to being the head coach at Colorado State, which wasn't really a good fit, and they weren't like that great last year, and they were like, yeah, I think we're going to move on and try something else. So I think for those reasons, like it's a stupid reason, but like some A&M fans will, look at that and be like, well, this guy got fired. Like, what do we really want him on our staff? Like, as an O-line coach, hell yeah, you want him. Like Jimbo's the head coach. Like Jimbo's still the head coach and the offensive coordinator. Like he's still calling the plays, but you get a guy like Adazio who has a fire for coaching O-line, and if you watch the practice videos, he's definitely one of the voices you can make out of the crowd. So definitely watch for that on Wednesday when the videos start coming out. But I think it's a great hire. He's getting up there in age. I think he's probably like I think I read that he's 61 or 60. He's recruiting quite well. We had a commitment last week from a 4-star offensive lineman, and they've already got one committed. So he's doing well there. I think he could be a guy where he's like, hey, I've been a head coach for a long time, and I kind of want to retire doing this. I mean, it's a pretty good gig, for him to be 61 and coaching O-line at a top 5 program.
Couldn't ask for much more, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, sounds like my kind of job, but yeah, and like Alante said, like being fired will make you hungry sometimes. Like like these coaches work so hard, and things don't always go the way they plan or work out the way they intended, but they're like hunting dogs. Like all they want to do is coach. Like a hunting dog wants to hunt, a coach wants to coach, and something like that could be a motivator. Like especially after not doing it for a long time. Like if you're a head coach and dealing with all the crap you have to deal with as a head coach, and then you get to take it's almost a cushy job to be the O-line coach at A&M, to where like everything is set up that you could ask for. Like you've got the best facilities and the best this and that, and like you're like, hey man, like I can just get back to coaching football instead of having to worry about running an entire program. I can just coach my position like I want to do. So I think it's a great fit, and I'm excited to watch his unit this year.
Well, he's got a good one to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's last thing before we get out of here. This has been a great show, by the way, Hayden. I appreciate you stepping in. But when Fisher left Florida State, the O-line was in a really bad position. Like they're just now recovering from it, to be honest. So I think people were kind of worried about that. Like, well, first of all, he didn't bring his O-line coach over with him. That's probably the first indication. Like, hey, this wasn't working out. But he's remedied that issue here. The first few classes, like obviously he signed Kenyon and Laden in that first class. They were hits. He had the bad luck with the guys that all had to medically retire, and the one transfer in his 18 class. But he's built it back up now to where, like I said before, there's a lot of young guys and a lot of talent, even past the starters who, should something happen to a starter, you've got good players behind them. There's one guy I mentioned who's kind of an unsung hero is Matthew Wyckoff. He's another member of that 21 signing class on the O-line. They took like 6 guys or 7 guys on the O-line. It was a tremendous class. But he's the backup center, and he's really damn good. Like in the spring, Bryce Foster throws shot put. He doesn't go through spring practice. So like Wyckoff is getting all the snaps with the ones and doing a great job. So should something happen to Bryce, you've got a really, really good player in the wings that can, step up and take charge there. I mentioned we got 5 guys fighting for a guard spot. If Laden gets nicked, or if the starter at left guard gets nicked, you've got guys there that can come in. Tackle is a little bit more iffy. The last guy I'll mention before we get out of here, he's more of long-term upside kind of play. But that said, Demetrius Crownover, he's the brother of running back Ernest Crownover. I think we hit on him in the spring. He officially changed positions. Sorry, excuse me. He changed positions in the spring from tight end to offensive tackle. He came in at like 6'5", 285, and we're like, he may not be a tight end long term. He might be better suited for offensive tackle. And you look at him now, and he looks like if you had to build an offensive tackle in a lab, he would look like Demetrius Crownover. Now he's 6'7", 300 pounds, and long arms, quick feet. He's still got some filling out to do. So if you had to play him this year, I don't think it'd be bad. But you look up in 2 years, if Ruben goes to the NFL early, which I would probably bet on at this point. Maybe and maybe even Zune as well. Like Zune is going to start for the next 2 years, and who knows what his prospects look like. But in 2024, when you lose those guys, you're going to have a guy like Crownover who's in his 4th year in the program and filled out and ready to take over. So you add that in with all the guys they already have, the guys they brought in the most recent class, the guys they're going to sign in this class. It's in a really good spot for the future, and that means great things for A&M. I said it on the show last year. You can have you can't have a great team with a bad O-line. Like you can have an average O-line and be pretty good, but if you have a good O-line, it makes a night and day difference. I think I brought up Patrick Mahomes in last year's episode. Best quarterback in the world, running for his life in the Super Bowl because they couldn't block Tampa Bay, and he did the best he could, but at a certain point, it's just not doable.
Yeah, I mean, you think about all those good teams. You don't have to have a great running back. You don't have to have a great quarterback. But if you have a average quarterback or an average running back, but a great offensive line, you can really do something with that because you give an average quarterback time to see the field and make a play, or you open up a gap for a running back. Yeah, I mean, you have to have that offensive line. It's where the battles are won.
Yeah, I mean, look back at our most successful years in the past decade, past 15 years even. 2012 with Johnny, and then 2020, the year they won the Orange Bowl, the COVID year. Tremendous O-lines. Like as good as Johnny was, like that O-line had 3 first-rounders on it, and it had 3 first-rounders, a 4th rounder, and Patrick Lewis, who was like co-MVP of the team that year. So like Johnny had all day to throw, and then obviously in 2020, they were a finalist for the Joe Moore Award, which goes to the top O-line in the country. I think through the first 8 games, Kellen got sacked like 1 time. There was some like crazy stat about that. So like it's pretty clear that like you have to be good at that spot. You can't be bad and have a good team or expect to win a championship. And when you're great at that spot, that's the years that you can win it all. So, yeah, I know, I had you guys fired up last year that we were going to be good on the O-line. Things had to move around a little bit. Had to plug some new guys in. I'm twice as confident as I was last year. So it remains to be seen. If I'm wrong, I'll come back here and say it. We're going to find out pretty quickly if the O-line can play. But I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to football. Players report tomorrow. Practice starts on Wednesday. There's a preseason game on Thursday. the Hall of Fame game, the Raiders and the Jags. Is that right?
That one I couldn't tell you.
You're my NFL guy. I thought you'd know that. But
no, preseason I don't start. Just see who gets hurt and pay attention after that. That's about it.
Well, I'm probably going to watch it. So it's going to be the first football on television of the season. But Hayden, I appreciate you coming on. Have you got any parting thoughts for the listeners?
No, I mean, it's been fun. It flew by a lot faster than I thought it was going to, honestly. you asked me to do this. So I guess it was last Wednesday, and it's been on my mind since then. I've had a few jokes that I wanted to get in there before I left the old I'm not Chase Caldwell. I've been sitting on that one for a while, and I was like, how do I give these guys a good ad read? And I got them in. So if I did my job with those two, and we still got a few viewers here, so I think I've kept people entertained, or maybe they're just listening to you, or maybe they're laughing at me. I don't know, but it's been a good little Monday evening.
Hey, it's pretty easy to fill out an hour, isn't it?
Yeah, I had no idea. It was like the first couple went by, and I was like, shoot, we only took a couple of minutes away, and then all of a sudden you get going and you just go back and forth and you start looking up this stuff, and it's like, hang on, I thought this and that, and then a couple times I found myself getting a little lost here, like oh shoot, I'm participating in this. I'm in this production. I need to contribute. Yeah. But at the same time, like I said, I knew that this was going to be one of those things where you have infinite knowledge on our offensive line. Meanwhile, I'm the guy that, wherever that ball is, that's what I'm watching. Running back, wide receivers, what are they doing? Whereas, like you said, you're watching the trenches, and that's, not coming from a school with football. Some of the more intricate details they're lost on me. Just wherever the ball goes, that I can follow.
Yeah. Well, I think you did a great job for someone who's not an O-line aficionado, but
I appreciate it.
And like having someone to fill in for Chase or fill in for myself, whenever life happens, so we can stay on schedule. It's good to know we can always count on you. But I do want to read out Chase's last comment here. He says he's at the airport right now. If you're still listening, but. He said if our offensive line moves as fluid as DFW's custom line is right now, we're going to win the ship. Which that's good. I feel like that's usually not the most efficient thing in the world is being at the airport. It's usually quite inefficient. So that's good. That's good, man. I'm glad, Chase, you're getting in and out of there, and you'll be back home to the dogs before too long. But and we'll see you back here on Wednesday, Chase. It'd be good to have you back. We were talking defensive line, and as excited as I am about the offensive line, we could go a legit 2 hours on the defensive line. there are so many guys, and even after losing 4 guys last year, it's still loaded. So I'm fired up for that. But we're definitely going to have that. We may have some sound bites from Jimbo. I think he's talking to the media either tomorrow or Wednesday. So we'll have that. We'll have our 5 minutes of practice footage of our guys stretching. We can definitely break that down. So we appreciate you guys listening. Appreciate you, Hayden, for hopping in on a Monday night, and we will talk to you guys on Wednesday.
Bye.